What's up, guys? Come on, 1992 here, back with another Marvel's Avengers video. In this video, we're going to be discussing my lethal tempo Kate Bishop build. I've been working on this build for a while since I finished off all my Miss Marvel stuff that I wanted to put out, the full tank and her full melee. And it's been a while since I've updated Kate Bishop herself. There has been some changes to her skills that I use, how I run her decoy and even her assault heroic and her ultimate. So I'm gonna get to that. Also going to discuss your core champ points and where to go from there, and the gear that I currently have. This build will help you with the Omega threat level, the raid, and beyond. So let's get into it. First, with the exotic artifact, we have the Sacred Norn Stone of Lethal Will. I like this artifact because of the burst damage it provides, especially when it's in conjunction with your ultimate Quantum Overdrive. And as you know, getting range criticals is pretty easy to do if you're a ranged main. So if you can get a ranged piece of gear that's giving you a damage buff, you can have 3 damage buffs running. Maybe even 4 if you can find the Tachyon Surge. But I understand that that's getting some sort of rework or adjustment, so we'll see. But even just having the Quantum Overdrive and the Sacred Northstone of Lethal Will is some pretty insane damage. Like way beyond 100k. Like that's your soft crit for a headshot. So definitely run this. For your ISOs, you're going to go for double, triple precision. Um, I found one in Maddie Cho's store, I believe, and then the other one I got lucky. It dropped midway through mission. It took me super long to get this second triple precision here. Um, Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think about the perks for the precision ISOs, because I'm not happy with aerial boon or even the signature attacks on the other one, because they don't really complement the range playstyle as much as some other perks that exist later on in these other gear pieces to the left here. I would prefer them do something like, oh, your scatter shot does this. Your explosive arrow has a bigger AoE. Your scatter shot crits more, has more base damage. I don't know, something like that, or maybe even just straight up intrinsic related stuff. I'm fine with heroic cooldowns, but I feel like that stuff mainly should be uh, um, put in conjunction with valor crystals, because that is what's actually, that's what it's all about. It's all about raising the damage from your powers. But with precision getting melee related stuff, that makes no sense. You should just slap that on melee crystals, the might ones. So hopefully there's a change or a fix comes for that soon. If there's already blue ices in the game and I just have a bad roll, let me know in the comments, guys, what your perk is for that. Hopefully, um, it do make a change to that soon, because it just doesn't make sense. Like my melee, because as a result of building full range, my melee is horrible. But that's the point. My arrows one shot, so don't give me perks on the ISO that is based off of range rating solely. Complementing melee stuff. It just doesn't make sense. My favorite piece of gear that I have right here uh, gives me 3 perks uh, that are like super solid, like all around her build. The Surge Enhancer gives you increased damage and impact while Quantum Surge is active. This is huge because you can provide peel for yourself on exos, adaptoids, and a lot of the larger robots that are trying to push you in. It's very substantial CC. You're usually making them flip or fall over completely, giving you time to kite around them and get away. The decoy effector is huge because it lasts 10% longer. You have an increased duration. The decoy itself is doing more damage, and its effectiveness to pull people in and like taunt them is also increased. There's more changes to the decoy that I made that is going to be able to support you and your teammates, which is why I like this perk so much, and I'm going to get into that later on in the video when we get into the skills. The last perk is Quantum Precision. You got 20% increased range damage during the Quantum Overdrive. Now, this is huge, arguably the best, because of the fact that we are going ranged in this build. So this is literally for us, anybody who's doing sniping. And if you hit headshots, man, it's some very insane damage. So 100% look for this piece. I got this in the Gauntlet of Heroes. It is going to take some farming because it took me a while to get this. I just got this like probably maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago when I started playing on her again to build her champion points up to make this video for you guys. For a defense piece of gear, I got this mainly for the fact that it was raising my range rating higher than anything else they were offering. Not so much for the perks. I do like the burst of willpower on a revamp, extra defense and sustainability from, for risking to pick somebody up. Granted, willpower back doesn't really matter too much whenever you're a glass cannon, and that's what this build is. So it's not going to necessarily save you from a one shot. Keep that in mind. I do like the intrinsic burst as well because, as you know, with Kate Bishop, when you get on a roll with dropping ads or just dealing damage, her damage spikes, and that's when your intrinsic bar it'll increase and grow in size on both sides, and it'll be like pulsing purple. She'll even get like a glow to her hands. So that's arguably good, but the other stuff, not so much. And again, it's from taking damage, so you don't really want to take damage for a perk. Not as a glass cannon. You kind of want that stuff to proc off of a perfect evade, or some range criticals. But nonetheless, grab a piece of gear that's going to raise your range rating to as high as possible. Um, Arguably, the second most important piece is my range piece of gear. I actually have several that I run, and they range from high to low with range damage. However, there are specific reasons for why I use each one. I actually trade these in and out, especially when I'm running with my squad. If you don't understand the way the elements work with hot and cold, there is certain combinations that will make your damage hit harder just because of what status effects are on the enemy, and that's how I get some of those crazy numbers out of my Miss Marvel videos, and that's how I get crazy numbers like that 190k explosive arrow that I got in a tips and tricks video that I uploaded a few days ago. So if you haven't seen those videos, check them out. It's basically going to be how to's and stuff to do in combat as Kate Bishop and other heroes that I play. But what I like about this one is you're getting a defense buff. The defense buff in conjunction with your decoy is going to provide some substantial armor and defense, so you won't be getting one-shotted as much, especially if you're sticking close to it. I wasn't a fan of it at first, the explosive arrow plasma damage, because typically I like to run the scatter arrow. However, I've learned that the explosive arrow does some pretty insane damage once you get some crit chance, because explosive arrows do crit. I used to think that they did not in my old video because I had no crit, and I was completely wrong. Explosive arrows are a very effective way of getting rid of a lot of enemies, especially if you singularity them first. Moving on to another piece of gear that I have. I mainly grabbed this one because of the PIM on the scattershot arrows. Honestly, this is my favorite piece. This is my favorite type of perks to see, stuff in relation to scattershot. Scattershot just does some insane damage when you mark the head and you lose all the arrows, because it's one, it's going to crit, guaranteed, and you're going to put a status effect on them. Also, this one says defeating an enemy with a ranged critical grants you a damage buff, and I suspect most of you are looking for headshots whenever you're sniping, whether you're on Kate or Clint. So if you're hitting those headshots and you got some decent perk chance, a damage buff is going to pop. So that's huge. Then there's also this one I got yesterday, actually. I believe I got this from what is that mission I rotate? The priority mission. That's what I got. And I'm actually curious to use this. I haven't got to use it yet. I want to use it in conjunction with somebody who's already running like plasma, so we can have that hot and cold burn going on. But yes, with the explosive arrows, we're dealing cosmic damage, and then with the scatter shot, we're also dealing cosmic damage. Now, this arguably is the best perk wise in terms of status effects because you have two different arrows that are applying the status effect. Like, I wish this Pim one was doing that along with having a damage buff. However, I do like how that damage buff is there. Um, But yeah, and then you have 20% increased stun and status damage of all explosive arrows, and that's also good, especially if you finish off your champion points that add to stun and status damage. But yeah, definitely look for this. And then Gamma as well. Gamma, this one is basically another version of this Pim arrow, except it has the scatter shot damage as Gamma, and we're still getting that damage buff. This is another solid option. Mainly because of the damage over time. Headshots usually leave people at like 10%, if not just dead. So the gamma will eat them up the rest of the way. Um, any of these ranged pieces of gear will work, guys. It's honestly the reason why I have them and rotate them out is based off of whenever I'm running with my boys and they're running this. I don't mind dropping like 100 precision to possibly 200 because with the crit damage that I have and the damage buffs that come with these two arrows specifically, it's going to make up for it because you're running a triple damage buff with this build. So something to think about. You got options when it comes to ranged pieces of gear. And most of these were found in the world, guys. I wasn't like I didn't you obviously I didn't get this from a vendor, but it's not like you have to spam OLT to find this stuff either. So yeah, just keep an eye out. Pan over them again for a second, just for people to see them. But yeah, the one I currently have equipped is raising my range rating to 3,908, which is why I'm running it. And it's the one that led to that 190k explosive arrow, which is why I still have it equipped. The melee piece of gear is not something I really use for my build. It's just something that gives me the highest precision. I do like how you have a Jarvis barrier if you get a melee critical. I do have pretty high crit chance. However, I typically don't risk just meleeing people till I get the Jarvis shield. I rather just evade with my teleport and work off of dodging and stuff like that. But if you're fine meleeing a few times to get a shield, by all means, go for it. Now let's get into the champion point part of the video, and this part I couldn't wait to do. This is also why this video took so long to come out, guys. I was very much slacking on getting Kate Bishop's champion point started. I finally have the core finished. The core for her is going to be the range damage boost, the critical damage boost, and the critical chance. Now, the two most important ones are range damage and crit chance. Now, of course, the range damage is important because you need base damage in order to make your crits sting. They're not going to be as effective if you do not have good base damage. So, one good way of specking is to go straight down through your range damage or either go 1, 2, and then 3. Just going straight across through the middle and all the way down. Because if you just go straight down with your crit damage, not only are you not dealing that much damage because your base is not that high, but you also don't have much crit chance to even see that high crit anyway. So either go straight down your range damage or grab them all as you go across for range damage, critical damage, and boost in critical damage chance. That's what got my range to 3,908. I believe there's a piece of gear out there that would actually make me go to 4,000, as I was able to do that with Miss Marvel. And I know an Iron Man who has 4K range rating before any sort of damage buff. So I'm looking for those pieces. If I find them, I will do some sort of upload or video about it whenever I do grab them. But at 3,908, this is a substantial amount of range damage. Don't turn your nose up at it. This is still very good, especially if you're hitting your headshots. That's a cool thing about precision people, because you kind of determine how hard you're hitting. Just aim for the hit. Uh, You won't be needing the melee damage boost because that's not what this build is for. What I would arguably say to go for next is the heroic charge rate. And that's directly going to get into what we're going to cover next, which is her abilities. I run the singularity. The singularity is a nice peel. It sets you up for insane explosive arrow moments, like in my tips and tricks videos. You can even use your scatter shot arrow during those moments as well. And if you're doing your quantum overdrive, you can get some pretty insane damage off while your singularity is going off too. It also gives you your quantum overdrive ultimate back faster. I don't even need to explain why that's so crucial. Your decoy, getting that back is going to be helpful for peel as well because enemies do go after your decoy. Um, and your decoy will, getting into the upgrades, you will want those perks and bonuses coming back as soon as possible because it's going to help you and your team. Something I'd go after shortly after that would probably be the perk chance, because if you have perks that you really love, like that damage boost off of those range criticals, or maybe something off of a perfect evade, this is going to increase the chance of you getting that. Personally, I'm going to go for the heroic charge rate, and then it'll be the perk chance, because I'm currently running a ranged arrow that doesn't give me a damage boost. Now, if I was the other way, I'd probably go for perk chance first. Um, Next, I'd go to stun and status damage, because the explosive arrow stuns people very hard, especially when you full cast it. And the status damage that comes off of my current piece of gear is solely based off of um, my explosive arrow. So I might as well attack, two categories at once. That perk gives me extra stun damage. I'm gonna add to it with this, and it's the one that currently is applying my status effect. So two birds, one stun. But yes, you will want stun and status next, heroic charge rate boost, and you will want the perk chance boost. Those are the next three things that'll be the most important. And if you finish those three categories, as I've stated to you, this is a glass cannon build, so defense is irrelevant here. It's not really going to save you that much from one shots. And of course, you could grab some heroic damage boost after that, because there's nothing wrong with making that singularity explosion do some more damage, but it's not going to be anything crazy because your heroic rating is very low if you're playing all about your arrows like I am in this lethal tempo build. So, what do I want to go to next? Let's talk about the abilities. So, the singularity stayed the same. I did not change that at all. But I did change to Void Walker where I can shoot too. And the reason why I did this is because since I'm not going full Valor, my heroic assault ability is not doing that much Valor damage. Now, granted, with damage buffs active and the Nornstone of Lethal Power active, it is doing more, but I'd rather be able to shoot two of these to be able to group up ads potentially in the raid, especially if there's a lot of them. It's nice for clearing floors whenever you're going through the gauntlet of heroes. So personally, I like Void Walker. Gravity Crush is still a viable option if you're just looking to make, damage from all sources of your build doing more damage. But personally, I like Void Walker to be able to group up the enemies one extra time. In the support ability, I believe I already had Healing Light equipped. If I didn't, I do. I do now. You get regen packs as the clone deals damage. Now this is heals over time, but in big chunks. It is substantial amount of heals, and the packs do drop very frequently. If you drop your decoy and you just kind of kite around the circle of it, you will notice that you'll have a nice well of health coming in. So definitely run Healing Life. It provides sustain for you and your teammates. It's like a safe space for them. And to make it even more of a safe space, I now run Quantum Field. I used to run this one right here, Afterglow, because I wanted the regen for myself. This is a pretty selfish perk, however. I kind of wish I would have initially started off saying everybody run Quantum Field, because the Quantum Field is going to give you armor by 35%. Um, and it's pretty solid when you're camping in the circle, because I know it says the buff duration is only 3 seconds. That's 3 seconds after you leave the field. If you stay in the field, the buff is always up, which is insane. When I was talking about that defense buff perk earlier, it's these are getting added together. So you got to figure, if you got a tank, Captain America in here, or Kamala or Hulk, they're getting this buff too. They're already tanky. This is like practically making them invincible. This allows me to take more damage than I should. So definitely run the quantum field. It's a pretty big radius. I don't know if I put a tips and tricks video up where you've seen it, but definitely run this. It's adding a defense boost and you're getting heal packs. So not to mention the decoy taunts enemies for you and it deals some damage. Like this is getting the most use out of your support heroic to support your team. So definitely run your build that way. On to the ultimate. Now, this is the part I was saying that I changed about it. I used to run Quantum Storm because I thought, well, look at the picture. She's shooting up the enemies with the bow. This is how you're supposed to run the range damage. And then looking at the Quantum Detonation, it said it was high impact, stun is high, high damage. But that's the thing. The bolts have to explode. They don't always explode on single target enemies like bosses, and the damage kind of looks mediocre. Because if you can see at the beginning, it says quantum energy bolts, the damage is low. It's not until that detonation when they actually do some crazy damage. So we're looking for the most damage we can put off at all possible times. And that would be through either quantum pulse or quantum scythe. Now you're not actually using quantum scythe. I'm just saying do not take quantum storm, because what happens is if you don't take quantum storm, your ult reverts to the OG way of you doing damage with her ultimate. And what it is she shoots razor arrows that are charged up with the quantum energy. And it loses 40k as a soft crit, I believe, maybe even 50. If you are currently under buffs, you are dropping around like 100k for a full charge, and sometimes even if you're not full charge and you're just snap shooting at people in the head, these arrows stun and are dealing increased damage because of my exotic piece of gear that I had discussed earlier. I personally go Quantum Pulse because if I'm sliding into people, it bumps them out of the way. Um, but it's all about the fact that your ranged arrows are not subject to low damage and detonation. It allows for chunky crits, especially if you full cast arrows. So if you can go for a full cast, go for it. But it is a very good option to just quantum drive, activate your Nornstone of Lethal Will, get your damage buff going by just constantly tapping uh, the right trigger to loose arrows off and at the boss's head, and you'll end up having 3 damage buffs going. You will see them melt. It's a very consistent way of putting out damage for your ultimate. Lastly, the quantum magnifier did not change. I kept that the same. Let's go to the masteries. I believe most of these stayed the same as well. I still have shot taker. Lasting impression I didn't change. Combat therapy I kept that the same because I wanted to have extra regen coming in. I still go heavy draw for that 10% damage. Still going sure shot. And I'm still going archer's prowess. These two build straight into scatter arrows, so especially if you have a ranged weapon that is giving you gamma that scatter plus you getting the damage buff, go for these two. They'll lead to the most damage because the scatter arrow typically does flag the explosive arrow just because it's useful in way more situations than the explosive arrow. It doesn't take as long to get the damage off too when you're full casting the arrow because there's that smart mark for the scatter shot. Whenever you're putting those purple circles on the enemy, always aim for the head. I kept these the same, basically trying to increase my maximum intrinsic because when I do finally get it, going where the bar is like emanating and pulsing, you're getting extra damage there. I want that to last as long as possible so I can be the most effective long range carry for my team. Um, Overcharge Surge, I kept this the same because while you are frying and one-shotting people, you can get more time with your ability, so that's really good. Next, there is the Overcharge Precision Boost. I kept that the same as well, and this is about the ranged critical attacks. So you definitely want to go for this because you should be going for headshots, so that'll increase the amount of your overcharge meter by a substantial amount. And lastly, precision overcharge. And this is giving you that increased damage. So most of my masteries didn't change. The biggest changes was to your decoy, which is in your specialties. Get that armor. Make sure you get those regen packs because it's going to help you and your team out a lot more, especially in Omega threat level. The Singularity is mainly an ad focused ability. This is nice to group people up for sick explosive shot moments, like in those tips and tricks videos. Check them out if you haven't seen them. Same thing with your scatter shot. You can also make this work with your quantum overdrive. Quantum pulse is, I do not use this for the dashing. I use it for the fact that it no longer makes me have the quantum storm because this does not hit hard on single target bosses. However, the very base one with no quantum storm will allow you to shoot enhanced razor arrows that have very chunky crits. So 100% look for those. Lastly, I want to pull up the stats for what it looks like. Her range damage is 440, or her precision is 441. Range damage is 2,600. Her crit chance is currently at 24%. That's pretty good considering the fact that you kind of control your crit chance as somebody who can just shoot somebody in the head and get a crit. Perk chance is 18.7, but mind you, this is before I actually got the champ points for her perk chance, so that you can expect that to go up to somewhere in the 20s or maybe even 30s. And then lastly, my stunning status will go up as well along with my cooldowns once I get further in my champion points for this character. But that is going to wrap up this video for today, guys. This is the Lethal Tempo Kate Bishop build. This is going to help you do very good range damage based off of your headshots and even body shots. I'll go ahead and hover over to the champion points one more time. There will be more update videos coming in the future for Kate Bishop and Miss Marvel as we get closer to the raid and upon raid release, because I definitely can't wait to see how effective these are. I appreciate the reception that the Miss Marvel builds have been getting and the Kate Bishop one in the past. I love doing these breakdowns for you guys. If you have any sort of comments about the build, stuff that it wasn't like super clear, let me know in the comments. If you like it, leave a like, subscribe, share this video, and that is pretty much it for this one, guys. I will catch you in the next one.